welcome to the video for Laser 101. My name's Akwasi, and I am a frequent user of the laser cutter, which is right here. This is a video to give a reminder so you can make stuff like this. Check it out. And also, stuff like this. Why buy presents from Amazon? You can make them. So, let's get started. This is our laser cutter, GCC LaserPro. So, here are some standard parts that are inside a usual laser cutter. We have what's called the bed or the grill, as shown by the grid marks here. We have rulers on the side in order to measure your piece and also figure out where you're going to cut. This is what I'm touching is the laser head. As you can see, we can move this guy around left to right and also forward and back on these two rails. Now, be careful with this. This is where the laser is going to come through in order to shoot out to your piece, so be delicate. On this side, we have a key for turning on and off the laser. Very important for if you want to check whether or not your piece will cut in the right area. Because if it doesn't, you'll be sad. There's our emergency stop button. This turns on the lights. This is the menu button for going through different options of the laser cutter. And on the side here is our on and off switch. Now this is our compressor. What this guy does is basically compress air and shoots it out through the nozzle of the laser that I just showed you. Because we want very nice and clean cuts on the laser cutter. And one last very important thing is our fume extractor. Generally what we like to keep is when you're about to do a cut, make sure you turn your fume extractor. Because this is what carries all the bad fumes from whatever you're cutting out and away from the laser and away from you. So remember, this guy turns on where you're cutting. If you don't, we'll be sad, the cut will be sad, and well, your piece will be sad too. So, this is the program that we actually use for cutting on the laser cutter, which you saw in the class, called CorelDRAW. There are a number of different programs you could use, Illustrator, Inkscape. CorelDRAW is a common one that I use. Inkscape can be a little bit iffy, but anyway, that's side note. So, let's say you wanted to create a new laser cut file. Go to File, New. We'll give this guy a name. We're going to call it Yay Lasers. Laser, excuse me. Now, you want to make sure you set the width and the height to the correct dimensions. Usually we keep it at these ones, 33.8 by 24 inches, mainly to take into account the size of the bed, which is a little bit larger than the width, but in any case, this is what works for us. The rest of these we keep the same and press OK. And this is our new sheet. So, laser cutter is really nice because you can take a bunch of images, PNGs, DXF, and basically etch anything from it, etch a lot of things out from it, or cut out things. In this example, we are going to use this piece of acrylic. If you want to say I wanted to cut something off the laser cutter and etch something, let's try the CMS logo. So, I go to File, Import, and somewhere in my Downloads folder, I have the CMS logo. Now, you notice there is an error here to talk about where the picture will be. So I'll click on the page, and there is our piece. Now, a couple of things you'll notice is this talks about the width, this is the height, this is the aspect ratio. You can lock it or unlock it. That way you can keep this as a rectangle if you lock it, or if you unlock it, you can make this look squished. But that doesn't look nice, so we usually keep this as locked. So, there are two main cuts that you usually do on the laser cutter. One of the common ones is an etch or a raster cut, which in the name raster, you'll basically create a pattern onto the piece that we're working on, and then it'll be etched onto there. The other cut you can do is a vector cut, which will basically cut through the material, and that's commonly used for if you want to make a keychain and you want to carry it around with you. You can basically cut out the material using a vector cut. Now, it's useful to have different colors in order to define your cuts. For example, in this case for the part that we're making right now, this is black, and so we want to keep it so that everything black is etched raster cut. And what we can do is use a different color for a vector cut. And so to do that, I am going to make a box. Pick one here. And I'm going to make the outline for this red. So to do that in CorelDRAW, you have to click on the red color. And press OK. You click on the piece that you want. Go to the arrow that says Default Palette and set the outline color. And look at that, it's red. Yay. Now, here's another tidbit. If you want to do a vector cut, you want to make sure that you have a very thin hairline shape. That way the laser cutter will read that it's a vector cut. Now, what's the definition of a hairline shape? Well, good news is CorelDRAW already has a hairline setting, so you click that one. But if you're using something such as like Illustrator, then you would just put it at a really thin thickness, like 0.003 inches or something like that, or lower. Yeah, take a pick. So what I'm gonna do is I want to have the CMS logo etched in the center of this rectangle. So I'm gonna do some manipulating. Move this around. Use the arrows, use the ruler on the top of the page in order to figure out my size, because if you want a small keychain, you don't want to make like a 12-inch big keychain, although that'd be cool, but sizes are important. Okay, well, this won't be perfect, but we'll go with it. So, I basically will make a cutout that's about 2.5 inches by, let's see, it's like 3/4 of an inch. That will be what the physical cutout piece will be, and we have the etching on the inside. So, this looks pretty good, so let's go and print this guy. File, print. First, we want to change the printer because we are not using XPS document writer. We are using the GLS Hybrid. No sponsorship for this video. So, one thing you want to check is make sure that you have no issues showing up in your settings. That way, the laser cutter will say, "Hey, this is good to print." Some issues you might get is maybe your output media doesn't fit onto the page. To which what you would do is make sure you can move your piece so that it'll fit onto the page. So, next thing we'll go to is preferences, and we'll go to mode setting. Now, we're using multiple colors for this cut, so usually what we recommend is going to manual color fill. That way you can choose different colors for different operations. Excuse me. So we go to pen, and this is where you can change the settings, a lot of your settings for the laser cutter. So, you notice we have black and red colors, and also a bunch of other colors as well. 16 of them. So, on this black section right here, we can specify that we want to make this a raster cut. Take off the vector, because this will be the raster cut. Make sure you turn on the air. I will repeat, make sure you turn on the air, because this turns on the compressor in order to blow air into the system. This is where you can change your settings. So let's say you want to have a darker or a lighter raster. This is how you would change it. I'm going to change this to whatever setting. So let's do 76 and 37. Now, one of the nice things about the laser cutter is that there's a lot of ways that you can customize and experiment. So we recommend that you experiment a lot with this machine. For the red, we're going to do a vector cut for it. Now for vector cut, we want to make sure we'll be able to cut through the material. So we need to slow down our speed, let's say this is good enough, and increase our power. That way we can make sure we can cut through our material. We'll put it at like 95. And again, this is our vector cut, so we take off the raster, and we turn on the air. Once again, turn on the air. So, the next section we're looking at is the position mode. There are a number of different position modes which you have learned about from the class. Home basically starts from the home position. This position here is our true home position, if you want to use the home setting. Now, you may be wondering, why the heck is that the case? Because there's so much material that you could use here. Well, that's how they set up our laser. So, what I like to do is put this guy on relative. Relative makes it so that no matter where you start your laser head is where your zero will be. It's because then you can use material as needed. Center is for if you want to etch something right in the center of something. But we won't go into that for this cut. Check the paper size. Paper size, okay. You can change the inches or metric, whatever your flavor is. Just the language, and we usually don't change the power settings as much. So we press OK, we click Apply, and we click Print. And there's our file. You can tell it's probably a fired file because we put yay lasers on it. And we also have our speed and power settings too. So, before we actually cut our piece, we need to actually place our piece onto the grill and actually focus our laser. Because you really want to focus your laser so that you have a nice cut. So that when you bring your piece to your mom, she's not like, egad, did you make this? So, to do the focusing, we have two ways of doing it. One, we have an automatic Z leveler for focusing. We don't like using this guy as much. So, we're going to use this guy, the manual leveler. So, we take the manual leveler, put it inside the hole on the side, and then we will move up and down the platform. Other direction. And you just want to make sure that your piece just touches the bottom of the level. Doesn't have to be perfect, but have like a nice scratch on there. There. Yeah, that should be okay. So, where to go with that? Now, like I said before, we put this on relative mode, so we can set the zero wherever we want to. So, I'm gonna put the zero over here, where this red dot is for the laser. So, now that we have that, what I like to do is usually do a test cut to make sure that I'm going to be in the right area. So to do so, we're going to keep the laser on the off position, as shown, and then we're going to run our program. Press start. As you can see, the laser is not turning on, and it's doing the rastering pattern. Seems like our piece looks like it's going to cut in the right area. So, we are going to turn the fume extractor on. Turn on that air, let it flow. And then, we're going to turn on our our laser, put it on, and then we let this guy cut.